I'd also like everyone to know that I am going to begin with this brief slideshow, but then I'll transition right into the software to demonstrate the features that I've just talked about. So thanks for joining. Currently, there aren't too many distinctions or differences between the installed and browser versions of Kurzweil. The other thing to note, you'll hear me today say the word client, installed. It's the same thing. The client, the installed version, they are one and the same. The other thing we call it is standalone. There aren't too many distinctions between the client and the browser versions. They both have numerous ways to support people with reading, study skills, writing, and increased independence during test taking. Today, however, I'll talk about and demonstrate some of the features that are unique and specific to the client. One of those things, the bigger, more notable difference between the two versions is the user interface, so the look and feel. The tools live in different places, and the installed version allows for customization of tabs and their associated tools. And in general, there are more customization options within the client. Speak buttons is unique to the install and causes Kurzweil to speak the names of tools, tips, buttons you click, and highlighted menu items. Let me get my mouse out of the way here. Magnify Spoken Word. When this feature is enabled, a special magnifier appears on the screen. Each word that Kurzweil speaks appears in very large type in this window. This may help an individual read if the type isn't clear, or if you don't want to change the font size for an entire document. The option to create an audio file is very useful. Kurzweil 3000 lets you save, then listen to documents saved as audio files, and you could choose between MP3 or WAV. So you can conveniently create the audio file with either all or portions of your selected reading document. The rate of speech, this can be specifically controlled within the installed version of Kurzweil. A slider allows someone to manually choose and adjust their desired speech or rate of speech. Finally, the last feature that I'll show and talk about is review items. Review, or Kurzweil's rubric, is very often the last step in the writing process before someone submits their writing assignment. Kurzweil 3000's writing path includes this review items checklist. So let's take a look. I'm going to move this window out of the way. We'll circle back to it in the end. I have Kurzweil open. One of the first things I want to point out is the version of Kurzweil that I'm running. So under the help menu, if I select About Kurzweil 3000, you can see here I'm running v22.06, and that is the latest version of Kurzweil. I want to talk a little bit about that user interface that I mentioned in customization. By default, Kurzweil has 4 tabs: the Kurzweil 3000 tab on the upper left in blue, the Read tab, the Write tab, and the Scan tab. With each tab, there are predetermined or associated tools or toolbars under that tab. Now, you can customize what's shown under these tabs, and the way to do that, if you right-click on the gray or black area, you have access to all the features within Kurzweil 3000. So you can choose to get rid of any of the features that are shown here, you can add to, and you can reorder the features. Another thing you can do, you can choose to hide or display any one of these tabs. You can also create your own custom tab. So the way to do that, if you right-click on any of these tabs and deselect Hide Custom Tab, it will then populate that custom tab. So I now have another tab showing called Custom. And you can see when I click on it, there are no tools yet showing on this custom tab because I can build it. So I'll go ahead and add some features or tools to this tab. I don't know, 3 or 4 just for time's sake today. So again, to access them, I right-click within that gray area, and I'll just choose a few. I'm going to choose to add the highlighters. I'll choose, why don't I choose sticky notes? I'm going to choose audio notes. I like adding voice notes. And maybe last but not least, a dictionary. Under reference, dictionary, I'm going to add the picture dictionary too. One more thing. So, and picture dictionary. This is my custom tab and toolbar, and then I can choose to rename it if I want. So I'm going to right click on the tab and rename it, and I'm going to put my name in there. One other thing you can do with the interface, you can do lots of things, but with the toolbars, tabs and toolbars, is you can choose to load one of Kurzweil's predetermined toolbars, and there are 14 that you can choose from. So right now, I'm going to, again, right click in the gray area and select load a toolbar set. And when I do that, I can use the drop-down menu, the arrow, to select a different toolbar. So right now I'm going to switch over from my toolbar over to study skills training. And when I do that, you'll see the tools here change. There's a bit of customization you can do within the tabs and toolbars. So moving along, I want to show the speak buttons feature. This may make Kurzweil more accessible to someone who has low vision, or really anyone that wants to hear the menus or buttons read aloud. To enable that, I select Tools, then Options, and under General at the top, and Miscellaneous, I'm going to select Speak Buttons. And as soon as I do that, you'll hear the buttons that I hover over read aloud.
Speak buttons enable. Kurzweil 3000. Read. Write. Save. Open an existing file.
I'm going to deselect that now, so that
General
doesn't interfere
options. Speak button
with the rest of my presentation. Moving on here, I want to talk about and show the feature Magnify Spoken Word. This allows Kurzweil to show the word that it's speaking in its own large window, which can then be resized. To enable this feature, it's under the View menu at the top, and then down toward the bottom, Magnify Spoken Word. And as soon as I select that, you'll see this big window appear. This can be resized to display more than one word, but I'll show you what it looks like. So I place my cursor where I want the text to speech and highlighting to begin. And when I click read, the word being spoken will show in this window.
A seed consists of an embryo and its food supply, surrounded by a protective coat.
I'm going to turn that one off again for now too. Moving down, I want to talk about creating an audio file. Again, I know for lots of college students, they like to create an audio file of their text. So if they don't necessarily need all the bells and whistles of Kurzweil at a certain point, but just want to listen to get repeated exposure to that reading material, they can create an audio file, save it to their phone, and then listen to their text. To do that, it's really easy. I'm not going to create the file, but I'll show you how. So you just select File, Audio File, and create audio file, and then it gives you some options to create that audio file. Moving down, the rate of speech within all parts of Kurzweil, whether you're working in the client, the browser version, the web extension, you can adjust the rate of speech. The distinction between the client or the installed version that I'm in now is that you can adjust that rate of speech more specifically. So the default setting is for Kurzweil to read 145 words per minute, but you can manually go in with a number, it's actually a slider, and adjust that rate of speech up or down. And I'll show you how to do that. So again, a lot of things within the installed version are found under Tools and Options. Here, I'm going to switch over from General to Reading. And then I can use, so you can see the default speed is 145. That means words per minute. You can use the slider to adjust that rate of speech up or down. Then you can test it all within this window.
Hello, my name is Heather. I'm from the a cappella group.
I'm going to switch back over to the default rate of speech. Moving on, and this is just the last feature I'm going to show today. It is review items. It's a rubric of sorts that's built into the writing path of Kurzweil. I love rubrics. I know they have multi-purposes, so they're most often used or very often by teachers as a way to grade an assignment, but they can have all sorts of uses. They can be used for oral presentations. They're a great tool to evaluate teamwork or individual contribution toward group tasks. They can be used to facilitate peer review, and they're definitely helpful to encourage students to assess their own work. I know some of my daughter's teachers will, first of all, give the students rubrics so the students can have their own checklist, but even after, sometimes they'll give work back to the students and tell the students to relook at the rubric, and then the students can submit their work back as an opportunity to make their work better. But anyway, there are two different ways that you can access the rubric. I'm going to go ahead and bring up a writing assignment. It's on the same topic. I had a plant diversity article open before. This is an article on plant diversity. I didn't write it. To access the rubric, I'm going to go under the Write menu and then select Review. And at this point, it split my screen. It shows me my rubric or checklist on the left and leaves my written work on the right. I actually got this last night when I was talking to my daughter. So I have two daughters, sophomore and junior in high school. I asked my junior if she can show me a rubric. She's currently in an English class. So this was part of a rubric that is used in her class for essay writing. So topic, idea development, characters well-defined, and so on. So I customized it. So the way to customize the rubric or checklist is in a different area. There too, I'm going to go right back to where I've begun tools and options. And this time toward the bottom, if I select review items, you can see this is the custom rubric or checklist that I created last night with my daughter, Rachel. But if I go to default, this is what the rubric looks like out of the box when you receive Kurzweil. So this is what yours will look like now if you haven't done any customization. I'm going to stop. I'm going to go back over to the slideshow for a minute because there are a few more things I want to point out. One is our next webinar. My colleague, Sean Nelson, will be doing the next one. Sean is an absolute rock star. I hope a lot of people are able to join, but again, all of these will be recorded. It will be on April 18th, and we'll definitely send invitations out for this one too. And Sean will focus on Kurzweil's Read the Web extension and Canvas. Kurzweil's Read the Web extensions work with all LMSs, but he'll be showing it within Canvas. So this is the slide I talked about at the beginning, shows the Kurzweil representatives, so me and my colleagues and the areas we work with. But again, if you want to reach out after and you're unsure who to contact, just contact any one of us and we'll get you to the right person if you're not at the right person. That's what I have. I want to thank everyone for joining. That was quick.